What's up guys, Josh here. Today I want to talk about a very interesting topic that would surprise just about all of you out there, and it's something that is really going to make your jaw drop when you find this out. So Subaru has recently stepped into the EV market, which is the electric vehicle market. So as you know, I've mentioned throughout a good amount of videos that auto industries are stepping into the EV market because sooner, before you know it, all cars are going to be electric and there'll be no more gasoline powered cars. And that's just the way of the world. It's going to be the way of the world. So now listen to this. Subaru made two EVs. One is a race car and one is a crossover SUV. So the race car EV that they made is the STI Era. Now the Subaru STI Era is the Subaru race car that kind of looks something like the Ford GT. Especially, you know, by looking at the front of it, looking at the headlights a little bit, and just all around. Wait until you hear all this good stuff about it. So, it comes with a whopping 1,073 horsepower. Now, that is astonishing for a car. That is like jaw-dropping across the board. It's just like, wow. Finally took long enough for Subaru to, jump into the EV world, and here they are making this. This is gonna be like the ultimate kickoff for Subaru. So, wow, just 1,073 horsepower. So that horsepower comes from 4 Yamaha motors, extensive downforce, and all-wheel drive formed into a unique torque vectoring system that maximizes stability and grip. So they're making this thing to really, handle well through corners and making quick, tight turns. So although you're probably not going to be able to do a burnout in one of these things because rear-wheel drive is like the best way to go for that. It's going to be a really fun, quick get-around EV, so that's a big plus on Subaru's part. This car is coming out is the 2022 model year that was revealed at the Tokyo Auto Salon. Tokyo Auto Salon is like the auto show in Tokyo. It's like Japan's version of the auto show. Like here in the US, we have the New York and Detroit Auto Show, and probably some others that I can't think of right now this second, but this car, having the GT style, has high downforce composite bodywork with cutouts in the body to redirect air away from the wheel wells. So I would say what they're trying to do with this is try to keep the air away from the wheels as much as they possibly can. Because like a lot of times when you're driving, even though it's just a little bit of the wheel that, sticks from under the car, the wind can still like hit against it as you're driving. Even if you're going at like medium speed, like 40 to 60 miles an hour, it still puts a little bit of force against the wheels. So what Subaru is trying to do in this case is, eliminate all that altogether so the wheels don't have any force hitting them as you drive along, no matter what speed you drive it at. So that's another plus on Subaru's part. Now the Subaru comes with a 60 kilowatt hour battery. Now I'm going to get into what a kilowatt hour is for those of you, who don't know what that is, because, I didn't even know what it is not long before recording this video. Just disclaimer, like, I'm not a scientist nor an electrician. This is just what I read online on a website called electricityplans.com, which is where I got the definition and the example from. So the abbreviation for kilowatt hour, or kWh, which is the abbreviation of it, is the amount of energy you would use by keeping a 1,000 watt appliance running for 1 hour. It's not like using a certain amount of watts per hour. It's basically using, however many watts, like per 5 hours, 10 hours, 15, 20 hours. But I'm going to explain a better example. So this example comes right off of the website that I just mentioned, and it says, as I quote word for word, for instance, you turn on a 1,000 watt bulb. It will take 10 hours to use 1 kilowatt hour of energy. A 2,000 watt appliance, on the other hand, would take half an hour. It all comes down to dividing the number of watts in an appliance into 1,000. So what that's saying is since the light bulb, was on for 10 hours, it theoretically used an hour of watts. So it used 1 hour of the watts for every 10 hours that it was on. So I hope I explained it pretty well. If not, you can do more research about this online, which, will give you plenty of better examples, but that's just the gist of what it is. All these phrases about kilowatt hours and kilowatts and charge time, so on and so forth, that's someday, and even now, it's going to be the terms that are going to be often associated with cars and trucks and whatnot. Because someday you're not going to be able to say fuel economy and MPG, because gas-powered vehicles are not going to exist someday in the future, and it's inevitable. With governments trying to stop, all the pollution caused by idling and running cars, driving all over the place, so that's where that stands. So with this battery, even though it's small, Subaru is confident that this battery is going to be able to power this car easily. With the advancements in technology, that Subaru is confident that this very small battery is going to be able to easily run the car. And even the smallest gadgets can affect the biggest of the world. So the reason why Subaru built the STI Era, they want to prove that they have the fastest EV car. So they're seeking to set a Nürburgring track time of 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, the normal record is between 7 and 9 minutes and even 10 minutes, but they're looking to do this in a little under 7 minutes ultimately. So even though it's not as quick as the Volkswagen IDR, it would ultimately be 55 seconds quicker than the Tesla Model S Plaid. Completed the lap time in 7 minutes and 35 seconds. That's still pretty quick, but Subaru's really pushing the standards here. And they want to show that they got what it takes to, get these track results right. So, right for them. So Subaru plans to test the ERA at the Japanese racing circuits later in 2022. So, they're going to test it around, their tracks over in Japan and make sure they have the right tires and, all the right specs to be able to, drive properly and compete. So, Subaru ain't playing. That's pretty much all I got for that. So the ERA is, in Subaru's eyes, supposed to represent their motorsport plans. It's supposed to represent, what they are as a company and what they have to offer in the performance aspect. So I'm sure it's going to be impressive nevertheless. Impressive either way, but it's also supposed to serve as a declaration of intent. So it's supposed to serve as all the things that I just mentioned just now. That is supposed to serve as what they're capable of ultimately. That they got what it takes to, make a high performance car. They got what it takes to do all that. And that's something that I feel if they've taken this long to come out with an EV, then they're more than likely going to get it right, hopefully. But we'll have to see when the time comes. Yeah, so we'll jump into the Subaru Saltera STI. The Subaru Saltera STI kind of looks something like the Nissan Kicks, at least the front of it, and so the company revealed that concept as the 2023 model year. The Saltera is provided by 2 motors, one on each axle, that generates 107 horsepower. So that's 107 horsepower per motor. That combined is supposed to give out ultimately 215 horsepower, which is really good. I mean, if you thought a car, you thought that thing was 107 horsepower and is an EV that's supposed to be respectably quick, it's kind of what the heck? Did they really advance that quick? That's kind of the range of a smart car, an Urkel car. Anyway, the US version of the Saltera is expected to have 220 miles of range. Now, that's pretty good for an EV. It's pretty much as good as you can get for right now. But, technology's going to advance over time. You'll probably get something that's 1,000 miles of range, so we'll wait and see when that time comes as technology advances, but yeah. Now, before I get a little more into this, Subaru didn't discuss a whole lot about the Saltera, so I'm going to discuss what's out there for right now. Pretty much everything that's out there for the time being at this recording. They didn't discuss any underbody changes, but the upgraded Saltera, which is the STI, includes a roof spoiler, skirt spoilers, and other customizations to signal its performance ambitions. So it's pretty much, like suspension, spoilers, and other things and whatnot to be able to handle respectively well for what it is. So that's pretty much all there is right now at the time of this recording, but maybe I'll have to make like an update video about the Saltera if, and when a lot more details about it come out, kind of be titled like update, or what we know about the Saltera now or something along those lines, but we'll cross that bridge and we come to it. Even though overall Subaru is later than expected to jump into the EV market compared to other auto manufacturers such as Volkswagen, Mercedes, and GM, and Ford, with the F-150 Lightning, Subaru is very likely going to have to catch up more quickly to, the EV manufacturing standards to, be able to compete against all these other competitors. So, they're going to have to really get moving. They're going to have to move a lot quicker than the other competitors because of how late they stepped into the market. Not that I want to see gas power cars. Right now, it's kind of like, a little disappointing to see and know that gas power cars are soon one day going to be off the road completely and replaced by electric vehicles. But I also think at the same time, with how dependable electric vehicles are going to be, that, it's very likely not going to be all that bad. You'll just miss like the smell of gas and internal combustion, things like that. I think in the long run, auto manufacturers are very likely going somewhere in the EV market in the long run, so that's pretty good for them. In a press release, Subaru says that the two vehicles are part of its mission to gather, quote for quote, experience with new technologies in the world of motorsports for the carbon neutral era. So it seems like to me that they want to compete with even gas power cars. It'd be kind of cool to see if they had like an EV and an internal combustion car race. If they had like the Subaru ERA and the Dodge Hellcat, Challenger Hellcat, let's just say, at a drag strip, and you just see the two going side by side, it would be very interesting to see what the results are going to be for that, because I'm very sure it's going to be surprisingly either the Hellcat is going to outrun it or the Subaru ERA could outrun it. It could go either way, I think, but ultimately we have to know what the 0 to 60 time. We have to know what the 0 to 60 time is on the ERA before we could determine who's more than likely to win. Because also it goes in with handling as well. So that pretty much wraps it up with this video. I think ultimately Subaru, has a really good thing going for them. Like I said, even though they stepped into the EV market, somewhat late compared to other auto manufacturers, I think, like with them taking their time a little bit more, they could more than likely have the best possible outcome for them. And ultimately, be able to get good track results on the Nürburgring and things like that. So that wraps it up for this video. So anyway, well, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and turn on post notifications so you do not miss out on one of my videos. And along with that, I'll see you next time.